What's up, everybody? Super fan here for another weekly update. So the New York Auto Show has been going on this week, and there's lots of stuff to cover. So just settle in, grab your popcorn and a drink, and let's get right down to it. The first news story is, of course, the Dodge Demon. The Dodge Challenger SRT Demon is what it's actually called. It is a very, very impressive vehicle. So I'm just going to get down to the specifications because they're the most impressive thing. 840 horsepower. Now, I know that's less than some of these rumors of 1,000 horsepower and stuff, but 840 horsepower still makes it the most powerful production V8 engine ever, in a production vehicle at least. 0 to 60 time, 2.3 seconds. The only thing that really keeps up with this is a Tesla Model S P100D. I mean, this is faster than Koenigsegg's, Pagani's, any hypercar you can name. I mean, it's seriously fast, 0 to 60. Quarter mile time, 9.65 seconds at 140 miles per hour. This thing, I think it's going to do a 0 to 100 miles per hour in like 5.1 seconds. So, just really pretty mind-blowing. They didn't announce pricing yet or availability, but they said they're trying to keep the price under $100,000. So we'll have to see. It could be fairly expensive, though, because there's just so many tricks up the Demon's sleeve here. And it's just going to be very impressive. A lot of those tricks involve launching software and things and hardware that's also been beefed up. And they claim that it can, whenever you launch this Demon, it'll do 1.8 Gs. And it's also the first production car to actually pull a wheelie from a dead stop. And at the launch in New York, they actually launched it on stage, and you see the whole front end lift up. It is a sight to behold. Very amazing. Anyway, it's running a 6.2 liter Hemi V8 engine like the Hellcat, but unlike the Hellcat, it's got a much larger 2.7 liter supercharger on top of that with 14.5 pounds of boost. It redlines at 6,500 RPMs, and it's one of the first tricks is involving making that power consistently thanks to a new SRT power chiller, they're calling it, which uses the air conditioning system whenever you're in drag mode to get rid of the air conditioning for the cabin, but it pumps it down onto the air grabber hood scoop to cool off that intake charge and make it so that it's, got consistently cold air coming into it, so it feels like it's in Alaska even if it's the middle of the desert. So very awesome. And also that cooler, there's an after run cooler to cool off the engine even after you turn off the car so that it can continue to cool itself down in between runs, which is, again, very awesome. This thing was just built for being the fastest car in a drag race, and that's it. Other things here, the pistons and connecting rods have been strengthened. It also uses dual fuel pumps, and the interesting thing is they're still going to be doing the SRT black and red keys like they do on the other ones. So with the black key, you actually get 500 horsepower. The red key gives you 808 horsepower, and then the red key, along with the 100 octane fuel that this can run with the push of a button, that gets you the full 840 horsepower. So, I mean, they say even with the black key and only with 500 horsepower on tap, with all this technology you have, that even in that form, it'll still do a quarter mile time in 11.59 seconds, which is not slow. Now, it does come with 315 wide Nitto drag radials on all four corners, but it also comes with a tuner crate, so you can have skinny wheels and tires up front there instead. And it even comes, this whole crate fits in the trunk, by the way. It includes a jack, a cordless impact wrench, tire pressure gauge, and also an air compressor. And so that allows you to swap on skinny wheels and tires up front there to limit your drag. Other tricks up the Demon's sleeve here, it has a trans brake that locks the transmission output shaft so that it can hold the car at a stop while you're building up boost. It also has a torque reserve system that has a bypass valve that closes off to pre-fill the supercharger with that boosted air, and so it just allows it to, it's almost like an anti-lag system, and you could even hear it whenever they're launching it on the stage of how it's kind of, I guess, doing its anti-lag kind of deal, and it sounds very cool. Other things about this vehicle here, it has all the components for the driveline have been beefed up to deal with the extra torque. It has a drag mode that, in addition to doing the air conditioning thing, also works to reduce the wheel hop, and so there's all kinds of sensors and things set up, but it also has a very quick adjustable suspension, and they were describing on stage how it can be it's set up so that whenever you launch, it'll immediately shove all the way to the back with very soft front springs that lift the car up and help you do that wheelie, but also firm up the rear so that you get the most power down to the rear as possible. And then once you let off the gas, everything goes back to the normal damping settings. So I mean, all kinds of awesome tricks with this thing, and so much so that there's even more to it than that. So there other stuff about this. Now, they cut about 200 pounds out of the Demon, and these are optional weight cutting measures. So I'm assuming all these times and stuff are with the lightest configuration possible, but here's some of the other stuff that you can get here removed. Now, 58 pounds can be removed by getting rid of the front passenger seat and seat belt. 55 pounds for getting rid of the rear seat, restraints, and floor mats. 24 pounds for removing the audio system. 20 pounds to get rid of the trunk deck cover trim, carpeting, and spare tire cover. 19 pounds to get rid of smaller hollow sway bars in place of the normal sway bars. 18 pounds to get rid of a bunch of, I guess, insulators and foam. And then you can also lose 16 pounds by using lightweight all aluminum 4-piston brakes that are smaller than the standard Demon brakes, I suppose. You get rid of 4 pounds by switching to manual tilt and telescoping steering column, and 2 pounds are removed by getting rid of the parking sensors. So the good thing is, though, if you want to add back like the spare seats and the trunk carpeting and all that kind of stuff, they can be optioned for $1. So it's not like Porsche where they charge you a ton of money to add in stuff all back in. It's, you want your passenger seat, it's $1. You want your back seat back, it's $1. So very reasonable, and you can configure these any way you like. So you can have the full 19 speaker audio system. You can get a sunroof. You can get heated and ventilated front seats that are leather, and you can even get a heated steering wheel still. So you can make this as loaded up as a Hellcat if you want. If you just kind of want to have bragging rights and aren't actually going to be hardcore drag racing one of these things. So there's a bunch of different driving modes. In addition to that drag mode, there's a bunch of street and track modes. There's even a password-protected valet mode that limits horsepower, keeps the engine speed below 4,000 RPMs, and disables the shift paddles and launch control as well, which is an interesting feature here. And as far as how it looks, it looks just like all the other Challengers for the most part, except you have a very large air grabber hood there. The Halo headlights now have 2 air intakes instead of 1. And you just have the, I guess, the bolt-on fender flare kind of look there to cover up those larger wheels and tires to keep it all street legal. This whole thing is street legal, although the funny thing is the NHRA has banned this from drag racing in its current configuration, and that was they were bragging about that on stage and saying it's so fast that you're not even allowed to drag race it. It's like, well, why'd you make a drag racing car if you're not allowed to drag race it? But it's kind of caught up in a bunch of technicalities. So the NHRA, in order to drag race, you can't, if a car is below a 10-second quarter mile, I believe you have to have a roll cage and also like a license that says you've actually been trained and you know what you're doing, which is good. So it protects people. You can't just walk onto a track with a sub 10-second car and kill yourself. So I mean, it's good common sense measures, and once you have those two things, then you're fine. Also, that's only if you run under a 10-second quarter mile. Now, if you don't run skinny front tires and you have all this extra weight added in, you don't have that 200 pounds removed, you might not be able to go below a 10-second quarter mile. You might or might not. So I think it's, you do your first run. If it's under 10 seconds, they'll be like, all right, get off the track, get a roll cage, and come back. So, it would be cool if they would have offered an optional roll cage in these things so it's really completely set right out of the factory, but not a huge deal. They're also offering a full warranty with this thing, 3-year, 36,000 mile, for the whole vehicle, and then 5-year, 60,000 mile powertrain coverage as well. And you also get a 1-day session at Bob Bondurant School of High Performance Driving as well, which should come in handy. So very cool to see all that, and glad that the Demon teasers are finally over with and we know all the information about it now. And Jeep stole the show as well here. In addition to the Dodge Demon, the other Mopar vehicle that was revealed here was the Jeep Grand Cherokee Trackhawk, which has the Hellcats motor, 707 horsepower, same output as the Hellcats here in the Trackhawk. Now, the big deal with the Trackhawk here, and it has 5 less pound-feet of torque, 645, same 3.5 seconds 0 to 60 times the Hellcat, quarter mile time of 11.6 seconds, but the big deal about the Trackhawk is it's all-wheel drive. So that's the big difference between the Dodge, vehicles. And so But it's got the same 8-speed automatic transmission, a single speed transfer case, electronic limited slip diff, and everything's been beefed up. Now the torque split is typically 40 in the front, 60 in the rear. That's the default mode. The track mode splits it to 30 in the front and 70 in the rear, and then there's a snow mode that does 50-50. And the sportier driving modes also can tweak the suspension to make it firmer, and it decreases your shift times. And they beefed up the suspension as well in these vehicles so that they now have adaptive Bilstein shocks, and the whole ride height is an inch lower than other Jeep Grand Cherokees. It's running 295 wide tires. You can also get an optional set of forged wheels that save 12 pounds of weight as well, according to Jeep. It runs Brembo 6-piston calipers and 15.75-inch rotors in the front, and 4-piston calipers with 13.73-inch rotors in the back. So really, the only way to tell a difference with the Trackhawk versus the normal SRT Jeep is there's a lack of fog lights. And so that's because there's going to be cold air intake there behind the one front air dam, and so they needed that for airflow, so they got rid of the fog lights. That's really the only way. That and the badge is the only way to tell this apart from the normal SRT Jeep, aside from, of course, whenever it takes off way faster than a normal SRT Jeep. But they also had some nice refinements. There's an optional real metal trim package you can get, and a leather package available as well to make things a lot nicer on the inside. But we don't know the pricing for these yet, or when they'll be on sale, although it'll probably be sometime toward the end of the year. It's a 2018 model after all. But yeah, very cool to see that as well. And there was quite a few refreshes here at the New York Auto Show. The first is the 2018 Acura TLX was refreshed here, and it also includes a new A-Spec trim, which is a sportier trim that actually does have some performance improvements, thankfully, not just an appearance package. But the big news is the TLX now has these new headlights and the same Pentagon-style grille that's found on the new MDX, and it's going to be the forward design direction for all Acura models that are all going to get that same grille. And there's all kinds of other tweaks around the vehicle to make it look a little bit sharper for these new models. But the big news is A-Spec model. That's what I want to talk about. It has a more aggressive front bumper, side skirts and rear bumper. It has a little diffuser in the back. It has fog lights, dual exhaust, a rear spoiler that's painted black to make it look a little more sporty. Now, the A-Spec's going to be available on both the front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive versions of the TLX. The front-wheel drive version gets firmer shocks and more responsive steering, while the all-wheel drive version adds firmer springs and a stiffer rear anti-roll bar. So that's really the most performance-oriented version. They all run wider tires on 19-inch wheels. Inside on the interior, there's not too many changes. The infotainment now runs Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, thankfully. And if you get the technology package on the V6, you also get illuminated piping through the interior now, which is cool. But the A-Spec does get some cool improvements, including much more heavily bolstered front seats that are available in red or black leather. You also get black Alcantara accents and a brushed aluminum trim on the inside there, and it also has red illuminated piping on those. Now, there isn't any kind of engine specs released for the A-Spec or the other ones, or any kind of pricing, but we know the current TLX makes 206 horsepower with the 4-cylinder motor, and the V6 makes 290 horsepower. So probably around there, maybe a little bit more. And so we know the pricing is right around $33,000 starting for the TLX. So it might be a little bit more than that, but it should be around that same area. And these are actually going to be available starting in June. So cool to see that. And, these days, SUVs are all the rage, so lots of SUV debuts here. The first, Subaru has revealed the Ascent concept. Still a concept here, and that's why it looks very sharp still and very striking. We've already seen spy shots of the standard actual production Ascent. Looks a lot blander. Hoping that maybe some of these concept cues carry over, but I'm not super optimistic with the way Subaru's track record is with concepts being a lot more watered down for production. But anyway, this thing, it's going to seat 8. It's going to be massive, as you can see. It's only for America. It's going to be built in Indiana, like all the other, a lot of the other Subarus here are. And one of the interesting little tidbits about this thing, though, is it's going to be running a 2.4 liter turbo boxer engine. That's a brand new engine. Maybe it could be also found in like a new WRX or STI for the 2020 model year. We know there's an all-new STI coming that'll hopefully ditch the EJ25 motor. So this could be what it is, because to be competitive with other SUVs that are this large, you're going to have close to 300 horsepower. So, you put this same motor in an STI, a 2.4 liter turbo boxer, sounds perfect. have, you know, a little over 300 horsepower maybe for an STI version, and you're set. But we'll see that motor first in this. Now, the production version of the Ascent, they said, is going to be shown at the LA Auto Show, which is in November. So then I guess these will be going on sale sometime next year. So, but yeah, cool to see that. A vehicle that thankfully did stay very close to its concept is the brand new Lincoln Navigator, which looks stunning in its production form. It looks nearly identical to the concept, aside from the gullwing doors, which no one expected to make to production anyway. And it's just really striking. I gotta say, it's a beautiful SUV in my opinion. Another awesome thing is, although it's using the same 3.5-liter twin-turbo V6 that the Expedition's going to be getting, this has a lot more power. They're expecting the Expedition to have like 375, 385 horsepower. Lincoln has announced that the Navigator is going to have 450 horsepower, so it's going to be the faster one for sure. That's a good amount of power there out of that. Other things to note, though, I mean, it's just beautiful on the interior as well. A lot of cues, you know, taken from the Continental, but it has a fully configurable digital 12-inch display for the dashboard there. It has a floating touchscreen for the infotainment. It has the 30-way adjustable seats from the Continental, and it's got all kinds of luxury features, laminated front and side glass, 20-speaker sound system. It has adaptive headlights that are pretty cool. At low speeds, the headlight beam is very wide to illuminate pedestrians and things like that. But then as you get higher and higher speeds, the headlights actually narrow in, so you reduce glare from road signs and things like that. And it also has memory settings that are pretty advanced that not only extend to the seats, but also for the mirrors, the pedals, the climate control, and entertainment functions. So all those kind of things are tied into your memory with your key and the memory modes in the vehicle there. And so yeah, very impressive thing, and I gotta give a huge round of applause to Lincoln for actually sticking to the concept and making a striking looking vehicle. It's just really awesome, and hopefully those things sell like crazy. Another vehicle that's very beautiful is Buick just debuted the 2018 Buick Enclave Avenir. Now the Avenir is like a high-end trim level, kind of like this black label that you saw on the Navigator, and so it just gives you all the premium trim, makes the interior look very beautiful. All these Enclaves run a 3.6 liter V6 with 302 horsepower, 260 pound-feet of torque, the typical corporate GM V6 there. Front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive, but for this Avenir trim, it has the Cadillac rear view camera mirror. It also has what they're calling Evonik acrylite lighting technology for those headlights, and they do look very striking, those headlights, and overall it's just a very beautiful looking SUV as well. So very cool to see that was debuted. Infiniti took all their wraps off the QX80 Monograph, which is still a concept, but man, Infiniti knows how to make some beautiful looking cars as well. I love those headlights that sweep all the way back to the front fender there, and it's just really, I mean, it's a huge SUV already, but then they made it look even bigger with the proportions and the way that they styled it there, and it's just really impressive. And so we'll be seeing a production version of this probably in a year or less. We know they're obviously going to be making one of these, and so very cool to see that. Also, the Genesis brand has come out with their new concept crossover SUV called the GV80. And so, as you might be able to tell, the designer that designed this car used to work at Bentley. The front end, the grille looks taken straight off of a Bentley. Otherwise, I mean, it's very elegant. Does look like a lot like a Bentley, though, I have to say. Looks very good. Looks like a very high-end SUV. Has a very high-end interior as well, with all kinds of displays and things like that. But this still is just a concept. But with how hot SUVs are, I'm sure that they are rushing something like this to market as fast as they possibly can, because it's almost certain to be a grand slam. And so cool to see that. One car that had a mixed reception here at New York was Toyota's FT4X concept. A lot of people are talking about it, but it's not all good talk. So the FT4X stands for Future Toyota Four-Wheel Drive Crossover. As you can see from the looks, it's very polarizing. This was designed by the same people that did the little concept cars for the Consumer Electronics Show that are autonomous and stuff like that. So very bold styling, and I think the way that they're pitching this is it's like supposed to be an urban vehicle that can also go off-road. So think Jeep Renegade. I think that's kind of the direction they're going with this, but it also could actually be like a Jeep Wrangler type deal, although probably not quite as aggressive as far as the off-roading as the Wrangler or anything. But it has all kinds of interesting tricks up its sleeve. Now, this was designed by younger people. I think they were really going after millennials hardcore, and including some funny stereotypes along with that. But so it has a rear hatch that they dubbed multi-hatch, which opens both upward and sideways, which isn't a revolutionary thing. We've seen that before. but the hatch has two storage boxes, one to keep items warm and the other to keep things cool. The whole interior of this thing is very interesting. The interior lights can be removed and used as flashlights. The rear door handles are actually water bottles and can be removed. It even has a compact sleeping bag from the North Face that's stored in between the front seats and is actually the armrest whenever you're not using it. So it folds into an armrest. I mean, you can never actually fold a sleeping bag into the same size it was when you first bought it. So I feel like that is destined to be a disaster. Of course, none of this stuff is actually going to make it to any production vehicle if they actually decide to build one of these. It's just the fun, ideas for a concept car. Other interesting things, they say the front air vents can rotate in order to dry off gear that's in the storage areas below. The radios are movable and can be used as a portable stereo. And instead of having an infotainment system, they just installed a phone mount above the digital instrument cluster. That's because Toyota doesn't use Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And most millennials, they say, use their phones for navigation anyway, especially if they don't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So it's a nice little clever workaround. They're just like, oh, since we're behind the times, we're just going to let you mount your phone right in front of you. So anyway, they do that. Other things, this vehicle does not have an engine because they're like, well, we could put whatever we want in it. It could be a hybrid, it could be whatever. They said that they would probably do some kind of small displacement 4-cylinder if they were to build something like this, and it would have some kind of mechanical 4-wheel drive system. Now, they didn't say, if it's going to make it to production, but with how hot Jeep Wrangler sales have been and all crossovers and SUVs in general, as long as they tone down the looks on this thing and, make it a little less funky and make it a little more mainstream, I think that would actually do pretty well for Toyota to be something a little bit more aggressive and unique than the typical RAV4 buyer. So very cool to see that. Hyundai has revealed a refreshed 2018 Sonata that has been heavily restyled here. They wanted to make it more aggressive looking, and I think they definitely achieved that mission. It has slimmer headlights and overall just looks really sharp, especially from the back end too. I mean, it's a really good looking vehicle, I have to say. I think they did a really good job. I think it looks a lot better than the new Camry and things like that. And so yeah, it's just, the deck lid and everything in the back, the taillights, everything looks really, really good. There's also a Sport 2.0 T model now as well, which doesn't get any additional power aside from getting that top of the line motor, but it does have 2 exhaust tips. It has new Michelin tires and a flat bottom steering wheel on those models there, but otherwise the engines are all the same. And if you get the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, you do get an 8-speed automatic transmission now instead of a 6-speed. Otherwise the rest of the engines just make do with the 6-speed automatic still, and they say that there's some handling upgrades, including thicker torsion bars in the steering system, new steering calibration for better on-center feel and responsiveness, and it's got some thicker trailing arms and new bushings in the suspension for faster response and more compliance. Inside, there's a reworked center console, and they've improved some of the materials and things like that inside as well. They also say there's going to be a new SEL model, which features popular equipment in a very affordable price, right above the base model pricing. And that SEL model will have power driver seat, keyless start, and heated front seats, which are, I guess, the things that everyone wants. And so, yes, those should be available here towards the end of this year as well. Now, one vehicle that really had me scratching my head is the Jag F-Type 4-cylinder that was debuted. The Jaguar F-Type 2.0T officially debuted here at the New York Auto Show, and this one makes me scratch my head because, it sounds like it would be a good thing. So it has the 2-liter turbo Ingenium motor that's going to be the new 4-cylinder for all the Jag models here going forward. The numbers aren't bad for a 2-liter 4-cylinder, 296 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. They're saying 0 to 60 in like 5.4 seconds. All pretty decent for a base model F-Type. This is the new base model one. It's only going to be available with an automatic, not a manual. And it's 95 pounds lighter than the supercharged V6 previous base model. But here's the kicker. This thing is still $60,895 for its starting price. Now, if you go up to what the previous base model was, the supercharged V6 version with 340 horsepower, so an extra, almost 45 horsepower here, those ones are only $61,400 with a manual, and with the automatic it's $62,700. So still, even if you're going automatic to automatic, it's less than $2,000 more for an extra 45 horsepower, and having a much better sound with a supercharged V6 over a turbo 4-cylinder. It's just like this turbo 4-cylinder is way too expensive. You would have made it $55,000. I could see it maybe tempting some people, but I don't really see. I mean, $2,000 isn't much of a difference, especially when people spend 10 or 15 grand on options for these things. So really, again, just it makes me scratch my head. But I wish all the best for Jag. I mean, the more options, the better. But I personally think no one is going to buy this 4-cylinder Jag. But anyway, interesting to see that. Another cool vehicle that's debuted was the 2018 Lexus LS 500 F Sport. Now, the F Sport version does have some performance improvements, but a lot of it is just styling as well. It's available for both the gas and hybrid versions. They all get 20-inch wheels, larger 6-piston calipers in the front, and larger 4-piston rear brakes as well. The F Sport grille has been tweaked, and Lexus says that the CAD engineers that designed it, it took them 5 months to get it right and to get the desired look, and it has 7,100 individual surfaces. So very complex, and they're proud of that. It has also enlarged side grills, unique rocker panels, trunk moldings, and it has F Sport badges all over the place, of course. Also, the ultra-white exterior is exclusive to the F Sports only. And so, in addition, the interior has been tweaked. It has front seats that are, more heavily bolstered. It also has the F Sport steering wheel, pedals, and perforated shift lever that you see on all the other F Sport models. Ultra suede for the seats and headliner. It has aluminum trim that makes it look a little sportier, and you can also get a circuit red interior that's exclusive to the F Sports. Only the rear-wheel drive gasoline LS 500s, though, get a handling package that you can add on, and it's called the Lexus Dynamic Handling, and it includes a variable ratio steering and active rear steering out of the LC, and so that helps to make it handle a lot better there, and so that is going to be the real performance advantage. So that one also has a sport-tuned air suspension that includes active stabilizers for flatter cornering. But otherwise, all the engine outputs and all that stuff are the same. So this isn't an actual F model, just F Sport. But these are going to be going on sale in early 2018. And another vehicle that is new here for 2018 is the Ford Explorer. Now, it's just a light refresh. All you can really see, it's got a new front bumper. It's got a new tweaked rear bumper with quad exhaust there. And you can also, on the inside, it has a few little enhancements. 4G Wi-Fi is on board now. And there's a new safety and security package you can get, which bundles a lot of the popular safety equipment. And that's it as far as the Ford Explorer goes, but it is a new little change there. Another Ford vehicle was debuted was the Ford Police Responder Hybrid Sedan, and this thing, they say, is the first pursuit rated hybrid vehicle here, and for police duty. But the funny thing is, they call it pursuit rated, but this thing is running a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, and then it also has an electric motor. I don't think it's even a turbo 2.4-liter 4-cylinder. So I don't know how this thing is going to have any power whatsoever or be able to keep up or pursue anybody with that, but they say it'll improve the fuel economy dramatically. They say 38 miles per gallon combined with the hybrid, and that's versus, I guess, if you were to get the Police Interceptor Taurus with its normal V6. These are going to be going on sale this spring, and they're first going to be rolled out for the LA and New York police departments, and then they'll be, of course, on sale and available to other police departments that want to buy them. So yeah, another vehicle to train your mind to look for in the rearview mirror. But yeah, don't expect to be going too fast, even though it is pursuit rated. And unfortunately, Chevy didn't debut anything exciting as far as the Corvette goes. Everyone was hoping for a ZR1 debut. It did not happen. Instead, Chevy gave us a few tweaks here for the 2018 model year Corvettes, very slight tweaks, and also this new Corvette Carbon 65 edition. So 2018 is going to be the 65th anniversary of the Corvette, so they're celebrating that with 650 of these limited edition Carbon 65 edition vehicles. They have carbon fiber elements inside and out, obviously, including a rear spoiler and quarter ducts that are made from carbon fiber. There's a new paint color called Ceramic Matrix Gray that replaces the Sterling Blue, and other things. It has fender stripes, door graphics, typical anniversary stuff, carbon rim steering wheel, and it also has the competition sports seats that are finished in jet black suede. So this package you can order on either a Grand Sport or a Z06, coupe or convertible. It's going to be available this summer, and it's going to be $15,000 though on top of the price of a normal non-limited edition Corvette. So the other changes here though for all 2018 model Corvettes is that there's going to be the availability of ceramic brakes on Grand Sport models without having to order the full Z07 package. You can also now get magnetic ride control as a standalone option on the normal Stingrays, and also there's a couple new wheel choices available here for the 2018 Corvette. So cool to see that, but really a bummer they didn't show us the ZR1. Other GM news is that they officially announced that the Super Cruise feature is finally going to be available for the 2018 Cadillac CT6, and those are going to be going on sale here this fall. And so it makes it totally hands-free driving on the highway. On certain highways, there's a lot of stipulations here, and so it'll take over the steering and the pedals, so that all you have to do is just sit back and relax. They do have an attention detecting system though that includes a camera and infrared lights that track the movement of your head, of the driver's head position, to make sure the driver's paying attention, looking forward, and is available to take over driving responsibilities at any moment's notice. So that means you can't be texting, you can't be reading a newspaper, you can't be taking a nap. You have to be staring ahead at the road still. It just, I guess, it still will be a nice thing to not have to steer, but, it's not, truly autonomous or anything like that. It's only like semi-autonomous. But still a cool innovation nonetheless. They do say though that if you do I guess look away from the road for too long, it'll give you a bunch of nags, including a flashing light bar that's now built into the steering wheel here on these 2018 CT6s with the Super Cruise technology. And so they use that to try and regain the driver's attention. If the driver's unresponsive, the system actually just brings the car to a stop and calls OnStar for the emergency medical services. So you got to make sure that you're on top of it, because otherwise this thing is going to pull over and call the cops. So yeah, very interesting. Other things, it's just got a bunch of scanners and sensors in order to make sure the car is staying in the middle of its lane and it's on the right type of road condition and things like that. So it's limited to they say divided highways with on and off ramps. So if it's a non-divided highway or something like that, doesn't work. So very limited still, but cool nonetheless. Another vehicle that was debuted was the 2018 Kia Rio Sedan. Now, we saw the hatchback at the Paris Motor Show last year, but now we see the sedan here for the United States, and it's got all the nice improvements here for this new generation Rio. It is a pretty cool looking little thing too for what it is. Should be very, very affordable. It's going to be running 130 horsepower, 1.6 liter naturally aspirated 4-cylinder. You can get it with a manual or automatic transmission, and the top trim levels even have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and a touchscreen infotainment, which is pretty good for its class. And I think a while ago, a viewer actually sent in a video of one of these Spied with a racier sounding exhaust. So I think they're doing a performance version of this Rio too that we'll see at a later date, possibly with the Elantra Sports little turbo 4-cylinder with 200 horsepower. Would be a pretty cool combo to be a competitor against the Volkswagen GTI and whatnot. So we'll have to wait and see about that, but cool to see that new Rio. Another vehicle, now there's a couple of vehicles that were spied this past week, moving on from the New York news. First, a US version of the Volkswagen T-Roc was spied. They're a small crossover. It's already on sale and looks different in Germany and whatnot, but here for the States, this one has some Ford camouflage on it. They wanted it to look like a Ford. So there's some fake chrome trim and things like that might not actually be on the production version. But we do see from these spy shots that it has red brakes, which are off of a GTI. So there's rumors that there could be some kind of GTI type variant here for the T-Roc to make it a little more performance oriented. So yeah, pretty cool. I really like the styling of this thing though, because it even in the quarter panel there in the back, it has a kick up almost like the Bentley Bentayga, like really similar on this little crossover. So pretty cool to see that. Other Volkswagen Group news is the 2018 Audi A8 was spied almost completely on camouflage, just lacking its badges really there. We'll see the full reveal of this car on July 11th, but honestly it doesn't look too different. They say it's going to be more evolutionary than revolutionary, and should have all kinds of cool technology in it, and that'll be the really exciting stuff more so than the styling of this vehicle. Other Audi news is the 2018 Audi RS3 was priced here for the United States. It's going to be starting at $55,875. It's going to be going on sale later this year. Of course, there are options that will add to the price of that, but pretty good pricing for 400 horsepower and a glorious sounding little inline 5 engine. Very cool. Another vehicle that actually just started production already was the McLaren 720S. They're going to be making 1,500 of these cars a year, and the first one just rolled off of the production line here this week. So I expect to see those at your local Cars and Coffee relatively soon. So cool to see that. And the last story I want to talk about this week is there was a new spy shot this week posted up of a Shelby GT500 engine bay, and you can see a big supercharger on top of a V8 engine in there. And a lot of people were asking me, what do you think about this? What do you think this is? I've been talking and been keeping up with rumors on forums and all those kind of things. And based off everything that I've collected from all my different information sources, my take on this picture is that it most likely is legit. But it's not what a lot of people are saying. A lot of people are saying this is the 5.2 liter Voodoo flat plane crank motor that's supercharged. So basically a supercharged Shelby GT350 is all this is. I don't think that's the case. I think what we're looking at here is a 5.2 liter, but it's a cross-plane crank. We've been hearing about how Ford's been, working with cross-plane cranks as a potential option for a higher performance Mustang for a while now. We know the flat plane crank is only exclusive to the GT350. Ford has committed into saying that they are never going to be doing a flat plane crank outside of the GT350. So it's a cross-plane crank. That's what I think, 5.2 liter. And the supercharger on top of it is a well-known supercharger already from the Ford Performance catalog, made by Roush, and we know that supercharger on a normal 5-liter Mustang V8 will do 670 horsepower already. So put it on a 5.2 with more power to make there with the extra displacement. I think that this new Shelby, or whatever they call it, is probably going to have at least 700 horsepower, probably more. So you're looking at a Hellcat competitor that's going to be pretty awesome. So as far as also, everyone keeps calling it a GT500, and this spy shot did have a Shelby badge there, but I think it's just because it was a GT350 body for the test mule. I think this thing's going to be called a Cobra. I've been hearing that the Shelby name is not going to live on beyond the GT350, and that the GT500 thing is not going to happen, and they're just going to call this a Cobra. And so that's what I've been hearing. These are the rumors I've heard. But so either way, it should be very impressive. Now the only question is when. When is this thing coming? I don't know. Since the New York Auto Show came and went with no news of anything new, I'm guessing the LA Auto Show in November, possibly, or else just randomly online sometime they'll unveil this. It could be this year, though. Could be next. We might be waiting a while as well. It's hard to say. But anyway, that's it for all the news this week, guys. So thank you very much for sticking around here for the whole thing, and thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next week. Take care.